We are going to be marking our starting point line. Is this also on this line that will be taking our shoulder measurement. So from the starting line, we are going to be taking our vertical measurements. We'll take our chest line measurement, take my breast point measurement, take my under bust measurement, and my waist measurement. So these measurements, I'll be marking it another point so we can get a straight line. My chest line, my bust point, my under bust, and my waistline. So we're going to be connect these dots with a straight horizontal line. It is on these lines that will be taking our horizontal measurements. Chest line, my bust point line, my under bust line, and my waist line. In this tutorial, we'll be drafting a full scale body, so we'll also mark our hip vertical measurement and also connect with a straight line. So on that starting point line, I'll be taking my shoulder measurement. You'll be using your own shoulder measurement for this bodice. Here I'm using my own. My shoulder is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So I marked 8 on that shoulder line, and I marked the same measurement on my chest line because that is where I'll be taking my armhole measurement. So on that shoulder line, I'll be taking my neck measurement. For this measurement, I'll be using 3 inches, which is standard. I'll also be taking the depth of 3 inches. This is a standard measurement. So I'll be coming in with my curve to connect the two lines together. There we have our front neckline. So on that line there, I'll be coming down by 1 inch. That's my armhole line. I'll be coming down by 1 inch, and then I'll connect it to my neck, and that's our shoulder slope because our shoulder is not straight. So that's our shoulder slope. From that shoulder slope, we are going to measure what is remaining from that line. We already minused 1 inch. Then we'll mark the midpoint. On that midpoint, we'll go in by 0.75. Then we're going to connect from that shoulder slope point to the 0.75 with a not too curvy line, and then from that 0.75 or 3/4 inch mark, will now complete it with a curve, and that is my front armhole. So I have my neck, my shoulder slope, and my front armhole. Then we are going to be taking our horizontal measurements. I'll be marking my bust measurement on that my chest line there. My bust measurement divided by 4. I will mark it there. I'll come down to my waistline. I will mark my waist divided by 4. I'll mark it there, and I'm going to be adding 1 inch for that. On the hip line, I'll also be marking my hip divided by 4. Whatever it gives me, I will mark it there. You should mark your own measurements too. The next thing, we are going to be connecting the 3 lines, to the chest line, to the waist, and to the hip. We're going to take straight line and then a little curve for our hip, because our waist to hip is not straight and is not too curvy. So there, the next thing is blend out any sharp point. So right now we have our basic bodies is coming out. So the next stuff, we are going to be taking our point to point measurement. My point to point measurement is 8.5. 8.5 divided by 2 is 4.25, and that is what I will be marking. It is at that point that I will take my 1 inch dart. So I'll be marking half inch on both sides of that nipple to nipple point. I will also mark my nipple to nipple point on my breast point. And then I'll connect from the breast point to my waist. Connect the nipple to nipple point from my waistline to my bust point. I'll be marking the same measurement, 4.25, on my hip line. And then I'll connect from my breast point to my waist and to my hip line. So on my breast point, I'll be coming down by 1 inch on that line. And on my hip, I'll be going up by 2 inches. And there I will connect this point to the half-inch mark the half-inch marks on both sides of the nipple to nipple point on the waist. I will also join the points where I mark 2 inches upwards from the hip. I also join it to the half-inch that I marked on both sides of the waist. And there we have completed our dart. So there is when we take our measurement, our front waist measurement is always longer than our back waist measurement. In my own case, my front shoulder to waist measurement is 1 inch longer than my back neck to waist measurement. So that 1 inch difference, I'm going to use it to form a dart, a bust dart, so that by the time I sew it, the sides of the back and front bodies will be equal. So to take that dart, I'm going to measure from my chest line to my under bust, and I'll be marking the midpoint. I'll be connecting that midpoint to my breast point. And on that line that I just marked there, I will go down by 1 inch. And I'm going to be marking half-inch on both sides of that line to dart out the 1 inch, so that by the time I sew, the side front bodies and the side back bodies will be equal, and it will also give fullness to my bust. It makes a whole of difference when you shape your bust that it gives your bodies a fuller look. So that's basically our front bodies. The next thing you can do is to add sewing allowance all around your body. So here I am marking 1 inch sewing allowance on the side front. Mark it all the way up and then connect So I'll be marking half an inch sewing allowance around my armhole, and depending on what you are making, you can add half an inch or 1 inch allowance at the hem of the bodice. So here I am marking half-inch allowance all around my armhole. I would advise that you mark it like this if you're a beginner, so that you have a straight a your line will be you will will match up with the initial line, and you will not have problem of marking 0. 0.5, 0. 0.6, 0. Just take your time and mark it so you can get it correctly. So that's basically it. Here I'm marking half an inch allowance at the hem of my bodice. You can mark 1 inch depending on what you're making, but I choose to mark half an inch for this tutorial. So I connect it, and that's it. The next thing I'll do is to cut out the basic front bodice. So we are going to cut out. So on this shoulder line, we'll also be adding half an inch allowance. The allowance that we use to join the shoulders together. You add it, you roll it out, and then you cut out everything. So here, our front basic bodice is ready. Let us go over to the back bodice. So that's our starting line there. On this back bodice, we are going to be marking 1 inch for our zipper allowance. Then we'll make a straight vertical line. It is on this line that we'll start taking. It's on this line that we'll start taking our measurements. So that's our zip allowance. From that starting point, we'll be taking our vertical measurement, chest line measurement, waist measurement, and hip measurement. We'll mark the same point to help us get a straight line. We'll join. On these lines, we'll be taking our horizontal measurements. That's my chest line, my waistline, and my hip line. So on that beginning point, that line we marked at the beginning, we'll be taking our shoulder measurement from there. My shoulder measurement divided by 2 is 8, and I'll mark the same measurement on my chest line. I'll be connecting these 2 points together just like we did in the front, on the front bodice. So on that line, I will come down by 1 inch. That's for our shoulder sloping. Our shoulder is not straight. So here we'll mark our neck, take our neck measurement. We're using 3 inches, with is standard. And then for this back neck depth, I'll be using 1 inch. Then to connect the 2 points together, first of all, I'll come in with straight line just for say like 3 cm, and then I'm going to complete the neck curve with my curve. Then from that neck point, you blend out. From that neck point, I will join into the shoulder slope. Join the 2 points together. Measure what is remaining and mark the midpoint. On that midpoint, we'll go in by 0.25 or a quarter of an inch. Then we're going to connect from the shoulder slope to that quarter of an inch, and with our curve, we'll complete our armhole curve. So that's our neckline, our shoulder slope, and our armhole. So on the chest line, I will be taking my bust measurement divide by 4, and I will mark. On the waistline, I will take my waist measurement divide by 4 and mark. Also mark 1 inch for that. On my hip line, I'll be marking my hip divided by 4. I'll be connecting these 3 lines together. So here our back bodice is taking shape. It's taking shape. So next off, I'll be marking my point to point measurement on the waist. I will also mark it on the hip line and also the chest line, and then I'll rule a straight line down. Rule my straight line from the chest to my hip, and then on the waistline I'll be taking half inch on both sides of the line on my waist measurement. On my chest measurement, I'll be coming down by 1 inch, and on the hip measurement, I'll be going up by 2 inches. I'll be connecting these points to the half inch I marked at the sides of that point to point line on my waist. So there our back bodice is ready. The next thing we can do is also to add sewing allowance all around the back bodice. So here too I'll be using 1 inch for the side back, half inch for the armhole, the shoulder and the hip line, and then I cut out. So there our back bodice is ready. So there is our back bodice, and here is also our front bodice. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful. Please do subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next class.